Shocking new footage from the Pentagon shows a strange object drifting over the Atlantic, and the moment an AI decoded it, the internet lost its mind. What it revealed looked terrifying, but the truth buried inside that file is even harder to believe. Let's break it down. The footage in the files. It began with one order. President Trump directed the release of the government's UFO files, and the reaction split fast. The batch carried about 40 records in all, 19 videos, 14 documents, 4 audio files, and 3 images, pulled from the Pentagon, NASA, the CIA, the FBI, and the Department of Energy. But one file stopped everyone cold. It came from over the Atlantic Ocean, recorded on the 1st of January 2020, and named Dow UAP PR-116, an unresolved report submitted by Northern Command to the Anomaly Office. The clip runs 32 seconds, captured by an infrared sensor, and in it an object drifts toward the camera. Even paused, no one could say what it was. Media outlets called it the clearest footage yet. The files sitting beside it in that same batch told a calmer story. One showed a formation that looked like nothing more than a group of birds. Another looked like a real craft, a flying wing with a bubble cockpit, until people realized they had seen it before. It was a German design from 1938, damaged in storage and destroyed before it ever flew. The batch reached back to the late 1940s and ran all the way up to 2025, mixing pilot debriefs and old analytical reports with modern sensor captures. Even NASA refused to feed the panic, noting that it already shares its data openly, and joking that the unexplained things it runs into have more to do with costly programs than aliens. All of this belonged to a program called Pursue, a rolling release meant to move these cases from locked folders into the open. Officials framed it as fulfilling public demand for transparency without endorsing any wild conclusion. The files came out quiet and procedural. What the internet did to them next was anything but. Decoded by an AI. The creators who cut up the footage did not explain it. They handed it straight to the crowd and asked what people saw. So the crowd reached for AI, using tools that upscale, sharpen, denoise, and fill in blurry frames. On platforms like X, those enhanced versions spread fast. The blob grew edges. It seemed to shift shape. It seemed to flee the censor. And the comments turned dark, with people whispering about alien probes, recovered bodies, and things they were never meant to see. That fear did not begin with this file. The disclosure world had been building it for years. Advocates keep saying that with every release, they see objects nobody can explain, machines that seem to accelerate instantly, make right-angle turns, stop on a dime, even cloak. The loudest voices go further still, insisting we are not alone, that the government has known for decades, that objects the size of a football field move underwater at speeds we cannot match. Some testimony given under oath claims the government ran secret crash retrieval programs designed to reverse engineer alien craft, and that recovered wreckage sometimes came with dead pilots. But none of that describes the Atlantic file. The debrief for PR-116 shows no independent maneuvering, no acceleration, and no direction changes. Those powers were spoken about UAP cases in general, not about this object. The AI did not uncover a secret. It filled empty pixels with guesses pulled from its training, the kind of hallucination that thrives on noisy infrared. Online, it even got tangled up with a separate case from the Middle East, and the confusion only grew. So if the machine was only guessing, the real question is what it was guessing about. The answer sat inside the file the whole time. The balloon. On its own, a single thermal clip means almost nothing. It can be a light, a blur, a sensor artifact, a bird, a drone, a flare, or just a blob with no context at all. Its meaning comes entirely from the paperwork wrapped around it, the witness accounts, and the follow-up analysis that turn a smudge into a case. And the paperwork on PR-116 is dull, careful, and honest. The debrief describes it as a large, somewhat deformed balloon, roughly 12 to 15 feet tall, maroon and sagging, drifting with the wind like a leaf on slow water. The two-tiered look that thrilled the internet comes from uneven heating, where one section of a flexible object glows while another stays cool. The dangling limbs match a tangled cluster of mylar trailing loose ends in the heat map. There are no wings, no engine glow, no exhaust. Just a warm bag of gas dressed up by distance and a hunting lens that zooms and pans to keep it centered, which reads as a chase when the thing is only drifting. This is what crews call a range fouler, the ordinary junk that wanders into a training zone, whether balloons climb for miles and hang for days. Escaped research balloons ride the jet stream. Even party balloons can drift into restricted sky, and through infrared at distance, each one can wear that same eerie, boneless glow. A report pointed straight at a balloon, but paper alone rarely ends a UFO story. For that, you call the scientists. The experts. And when the scientists look, the fever breaks fast. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb read the same file that terrified the internet and called it prosaic in tone, a maroon shape drifting like a deformed balloon. His point cuts to the heart of the hype. A thermal camera does not paint a portrait. It maps warmth, and warmth lies. Atmospheric shimmer smears the edges. The gimbal holding the lens leaves its own ghost. Uneven heating fakes a shape. Stack those quirks together and a dull object can look sculpted and almost alive. Imaging artists have even recreated these jellyfish-style clips using plain objects under infrared, proving how easily the eye is fooled. The catch is the one thing a single clip can never hand over: the hard numbers behind the picture. Researchers want more than the video. They want the kinematics and the telemetry, the data that would let them prove whether an object is ordinary or not. Even the believers admit some cases will turn out to be nothing, while insisting many will not. And that is the weak spot in the Atlantic case. The picture went public, but the proof did not. There is no raw sensor data, no full telemetry, none of the underlying detail that would let independent analysts truly dig in. Trace decades of official AARO cases, and the ending barely changes. The great majority settle into balloons, drones, birds, aircraft, or plain sensor clutter once the weather and flight records finally arrive. No craft, no bodies, no engine that breaks the laws of physics. So if the science keeps landing on something this ordinary, one question refuses to die: why did this blob still frighten the whole world? The human part. The answer lives in us, not in the sky. A mind that hunts for faces and shapes will fill a blur with whatever it fears, and the reactions poured in. People joked about little crewmen in space suits landing on a friend's birthday, half laughing and half unnerved, insisting something was not right. Not everyone was swept up. Some who have pushed hardest for transparency were unimpressed, calling the flashy releases a deep state classic, a way to show the public only the stuff that is easy to explain while the real material stays hidden. Critics went further, dismissing the whole effort as a limited hangout that dodges the sensitive programs. For others, the anger runs far deeper than one balloon. They point to senior military pilots describing technology they do not believe is human, to congressmen denied access by their own military, to claims that agencies destroy evidence so pilots are never pulled off the flight line. They argue the stakes are everything, that a craft able to cross light years without a heat signature would rewrite the world. And the belief is old, far older than this clip. The government has chased these lights since the 1940s, through Project Sign in 1948 and Project Blue Book in the years that followed. And the verdict was usually the same: misread planes, stray balloons, and tricks of the eye. Even a jellyfish-shaped blob has a family tree, since earlier drifting objects sparked the very same panic and the very same slow letdown. The difference now is the tools, because anyone can dress up a blur in minutes and push it to millions. The hunger for answers stretches past one country too, as nations open archives holding hundreds of old cases. But cut through all of it, and the official line has not moved 1 inch. The Pentagon still maintains it has found no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial activity. So here is where it lands. The footage was real. The balloon it likely showed was real. But the terrifying thing the AI revealed was never in the water or the sky. It lived in the software and in the fear we carried to the screen. The object drifted with the wind. The panic drifted with us. Thanks for watching.